Hello, and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today, I'll be showing you how to cycle from London Bridge Station on the River Thames to Camberwell in South London. This ride takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. The same journey by public transport takes over half an hour, so you can definitely save time by cycling it. It's also a really pleasant ride. If you find this video useful, or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube and smash the bell icon so that you're alerted for new videos. I try to post new routes every week, and I also take requests, so let me know underneath in the comments if you have any ideas. Okay, let's get going. So we're starting outside London Bridge Railway Station on the southern side by St Thomas's Road. We're going to go down Weston Street, and you can see those no motor vehicles signs at the entrance to Weston Street. That's keeping this street nice and quiet because it means there's no through traffic on it. You can see there's obviously cars here, they're parked, they can access the street, but they can't use it as a through route, which keeps it quiet for us. We immediately want to turn right onto Snowsfield, and this is actually part of Cycleway 14, which is a TfL signposted route, but we're not going to be on it for long. But we will be on it just long enough to use this nice semi-protected cycle lane. The street's two-way for bikes because of that contraflow lane, but it's one-way for cars. But we're now turning off Cycleway 14 already, and we're going down Crosby Row. Most of the streets around this area are very quiet, and this one's no exception. Keep an eye out on the left just now for a guy changing a billboard around, which I always think is fun to watch. As we get to the end of the street, we're actually going straight on, but unfortunately there isn't a dropped curb here for us, so we dismount and we actually get off. Make sure you check that there are no cars coming before you do that, because you do have to dismount in the middle of the road. Generally it's quiet, but it's okay. The reason we have done that is so we can go down Southall Place and Sterry Street. These are both really quiet. They are filtered, they've got bollards at the end, so you can cycle down them, but there's no through traffic at all. And when you come out of them, you turn left onto Tabard Street. And if you've ever cycled Cycleway 10, you'll know where we are now. This is Cycleway 10, or the old Quiet Way 1, and we're very briefly going to be following it. And that's why there's this really nice protected cycle crossing across the main road, and the streets are dead quiet, really, really good. But again, we're breaking from Cycleway 10, and we're not staying on the signposted routes for long on this route, and we're going down Trinity Street. If we'd followed Cycleway 10 right, we would have headed towards Waterloo and also into the city centre, but we're not, we're going in the opposite direction. Quick shout out for that pub on the left there, the Roebuck, which has extremely nice outdoor seating, especially on a day like this. And if you're paying attention, you'll see that we are now following a signposted route. We're following Cycleway 17, and you can tell that because there's C17 written on the grounds, and there are also signs pointing C17. We go down Falmouth Street here, and it's really nice and quiet, and there's a really interesting mix of architecture around here. You can see there's some sort of interwar sort of 1920s 30s stuff on the right and on the left still, and we also went past a sort of 70s modernist building, and there's also sort of your sort of standard Victorian terrace fare and stuff like that, very imposing on the left there. That is a church, I believe. And yeah, you're basically just following Cycleway 17 down here, and you can see it's a really pleasant route. But at the end of the street, you come onto this busy street, and you are actually allowed to mount the pavement here. This is a shared pedestrian and cycles crossing. You can see there's a cycle symbol on the Toucan crossing. And on the other side of the road, we join a pretty excellent protected cycle track, which carries us only a short way here, but out onto Rodney Place, and a much nicer protected cycle track. I believe these curbs on the track are actually temporary curbs. They're sort of sand-filled things that are sort of bolted to the ground. You can sort of tell, but they're really good actually. I wish we used a lot more of those. We follow this across, and that's actually a zebra crossing. Well, it's actually a tiger crossing, I think it's called. That's a zebra crossing, which is good for both cycles and bikes. You should have priority at that crossing over motor vehicles that are coming down the road, or anybody that's coming down the road actually, and they should stop for you. But as you might have seen in some other videos, they don't always do that. Not everybody knows what a parallel tiger crossing is, and not everybody knows that cycles have priority over them, so do be careful on it and keep an eye out. We're still following C17 here, and it is pretty good actually. This street's generally quite quiet. We go down Brandon Street, but we're about to go probably to the most interesting bit of it. It's East Street Market, so both left and right here are East Street Market. You catch a glimpse of it here, and that's a great little market. it's not that well known outside of this part of London, I think, but it should be. It's really really interesting place to go and buy your spices and your fruit and veg, and it's really cheap. So yeah, go and check it out. If you've lost your bearings, by the way, we're more or less heading dead south here. We're heading towards Burgess Park, and it's really direct. We haven't had to turn a corner in a while. It went straight from Brandon Street to Portland Street, and lots of people cycling down it, which is good fun. There is also some motor traffic on here. You can see we're passing a few cars. There are actually some through routes for traffic on here, and it could be quietened down. The Southwark Cycle Campaign has suggested extending the Walworth low traffic neighbourhood to the east and covering these streets, and I think that would be a great idea because it's a main cycle route and it would be best to have it included in the low traffic neighbourhood. You can see here that we've just gone into a sort of protected lane here. That's just for the crossing, and we're still following C17. And you go down this protected lane, but then you very quickly turn off and into Burgess Park. And the interesting thing here is that in Burgess Park, the signs all have the old name for Cycleway 17, which is confusingly Quiet Way 7. They decided to rename and renumber the route. But yeah, it says Q7 on the floor here. It can be a little bit confusing to know where to go because the signs are very discreet, but keep an eye on the floor. And of course this is a shared path with pedestrians, so make sure you cycle courteously and don't go too quickly, and give way to people if they're in their way. Don't get frustrated or anything like that. Don't turn off here on the left. I did that, that's why there was a cut in the video. And don't turn off there either. Keep going until the cycleway sign just there. You can see a blue and green sign on a pole, and then it's a very sharp left out into Edmund Street. One improvement that could be made here, as there is some traffic down this road that you have to wait for, would be to have one of those parallel cycle zebra crossings, which would help people walking and cycling to the park, and also using the main cycle route, Cycleway 17. The signs are now back calling it that, by the way. We're now in another low traffic neighbourhood, so this is an area that's had through traffic removed to make it nice and quiet, and it's great for walking and cycling. It's called Brunswick Park, and it's a really interesting one because it was funded partly by Southwark Council, but it was also partly funded by an arm of the local National Health Service, NHS Trust, Guy's and St Thomas's charity. And that's a really interesting thing there. So they identified this area as somewhere that was at risk of high levels of childhood obesity and also a deprived area, and they basically decided that one way they could deal with that would be to introduce a low traffic neighbourhood to make it easy for kids to walk and cycle to school. And frankly, I mean, I think this is going to encourage a lot of people to walk and cycle to school because it's really nice to cycle around. And I hope people are taking that opportunity. I think they're monitoring the results, and it'll be interesting to see what that does. I think it's fantastic to have the NHS involved in that way in sort of improving active travel, and I think it shows what a great thing it is to have a National Health Service that also looks at public health and the wider implications of it. And as you can see, people are sort of out playing in the street, and it's really, really quite nice, and I think it's made a big difference. It certainly makes it a lot easier for us to cycle to Camberwell. And we're basically there now. We're going down this street, Camberwell Green, and you come out of this street and you go onto the green itself here. This is a shared path here, so again, if there are people, make sure you give them a wide berth. But we've arrived. And yeah, it's that wasn't too difficult at all, was it? I hope you agree that that was extremely pleasant. We were in pretty much low traffic neighbourhoods or very quiet streets or on protected cycle lanes the whole way. And Camberwell doesn't have the best public transport connections, certainly not the best rail connections to other parts of London, so cycling is a much easier way to get around in this bit actually. It's about a 3-mile ride. Just to say, if you enjoyed this video, please do hit subscribe, and you can see a lot more. There's plenty more where that came from. Comment underneath, let me know what you think. I'm always open for suggestions as well for routes to do, places to check out, things you'd like to see. And just a note as well, I'll mention it because if I don't mention it, people ask. There is a route that you can download the route map of the video in the description. There's a link to it down below, and you can download the GPX file. You can use it on whatever app or device you use. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.